Do you have this friend that tells you what you need to do in order to, well, lower your stress because that thing worked for them, so it should work for you too? Well, I'm here to tell you, no, it doesn't mean that. It really depends. I think a lot of people get confused that stress management techniques works for everyone. Everyone should be meditating, doing yoga, writing their diaries, and waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to put that all in. My name is Lolita Gorian. I'm a stress management expert. And I'm here to tell you that no, 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 no. That just because somebody else had success in what they were doing, it doesn't mean it's going to help you. Okay. So I will tell you now why that happens. What can you do about that? And at the end of a video, I'll tell you how to work with my calm process. And you don't know what it is, I will tell you what it is. So, first, why there's such an obsession with, like, let's say 5 to 10 stress management techniques that everybody should be doing? I'm gonna tell you, I had a huge problem with that the first time when I find out they have to be sitting and meditating for 15 or 20 minutes every single day. Probably even better if I'll do it more because, well, everybody's doing that. I had a problem with this. And if you care what I think about that, I have a video already made where I talk about, is meditation good for you or not good for you? So then I heard, well, you need to do walking and you do exercise and all that. I have a video about that too. So what I want to say, that just because somebody tells you what you need to do, yes, I know I'm like telling you what you need to do, it doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Because, well, yes, we are all humans, so we definitely need to be eating and sleeping and having water for sure. But whatever comes after that, this is really personal choice. And you know why? Because what happens is when we are young, we're gonna follow the herd. Because if we will be left alone, we will not eat one of the human needs, and hence we will die. And what happens is that we learn that behavior that we have to listen to everyone who is telling us because we need to belong to a group. And if we don't belong to a group, hence we die. I know, tragic, but that's the reality. That's where all of those insecurities of ours comes because we just constantly need to tune in what other people think about us because, well, we have to belong to a group. So that's where in your childhood, what happens is you unlearn how to listen to yourself. You think if it's good for the herd, it's going to be good for you. Not necessarily. So I'm asking you to identify, did you have a childhood when you were growing up where whatever you did, it was good? Like you were validated, you were celebrated, you were loved unconditionally, your opinion mattered, and you just knew your place in the world and you were just happy to be there. Because if you had that kind of childhood, then you probably know what works for you. And people will not be pushing you around because, well, you know what to do. Why would you listen to somebody else? But if you grew up in the childhood, like I did, my dad was alcoholic. I had no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. Like, the day could be going well and he will come back drunk, and I have no idea he's going to be throwing dishes today or not. So there was a lot of trust that was already broken, but also I knew that I have to behave. If I will not please him that moment, therefore now will make him, entertained, then, he will be angry. So my survival really depend on him. And that's how I learned that I depend on other people's survival. I depend on other people approving whatever I think. So when my friend says, hey, I think you need to drink vinegar early in the morning when you wake up because it helps my stomach and it should help yours, I immediately like, all right, where's my vinegar? So why it cannot work? Because we're different. First of all, even if you look at twins, they were born like on the same astrological sign, the same, like 30 minutes apart. They look identical, but they still different, right? Exactly. That is just proves that we are all very different. And we're different because we all have our own understanding of the world. We take actions, reactions, depending how we feel. And trauma It's about not what happened to you. It is about how you reacted to that. That's why when you have a trigger, you will react very differently than somebody else's will do because they have very different paths that has to do with traumas, with stressful experiences, that all that has to do with survival. That's why we're very, very different. So if the same friend tells me that I need to drink vinegar, but let's say my grandmother that was very abusive made me to drink vinegar, or she loved drinking vinegar or making something with food that has to do with vinegar, that smell itself can trigger something in me that I will not like. And immediately will be saying, this is red flag. I don't like this, run. So that's why we're very different. So you have to do something that works. So what works? When you hear something that somebody says, hey, I just had this great results with this, and this is what for me, and you should try too. You should try, but you need to ask yourself, why am I trying? Am I want to please that person? Or am I really sincerely want to help myself and I want to find different ways to help myself? And I am open to trying something new. You see, there's also what can happen. We don't like change naturally. We used to things, and that's why the world's going insane because we don't want to change. We don't want to realize that the things that we've been doing it doesn't work. So we need to change some things, and that's very painful. So naturally, you could be already like, I don't think I want to try this. That's why it's very difficult to feed babies when they're young because they don't want to try new foods. I'm like, I don't know, this looks suspicious to me. What, the pink? I've never seen pink in my life. Trying something new, but always asking, why are you doing that? Here's another thing. I think this is all about why do you need to manage your stress? Why? Because you're stressed? Why are you stressed? What triggers you? And then try to deal with the core issue. I think all of those meditations, exercises, yogas, and all this, I call them stress management bandages because they are very good to apply. It could be a short solution, but does not address the wound. And the wound is that if you are hurt, if you invalidated, you are not being seen, you feel like you're being constantly hurt, no yoga will help you. You will not, because that's a bandage. So ask yourself, why do you need to have stress management tools? Well, because this is life, right? And I hear a lot of people say, especially when I do events, they usually will be like an old gentleman comes to me and says, I have no stress. I'm never stressed. I'm like, okay, all right, great. Well, so why you dressed today? You should be walking around naked. Oh, it's too cold outside. Well, guess what? Your body was stressing because it was cold outside. That's why you put the suit on. So stress is such a thing that's always going to be in our lives, but we need to learn how to manage that because I think being stressed is already a human condition. The triggers and traumas and everything because we look at it without knowing how to look at it. Nobody told us how to deal with our emotions. Nobody told us what kind of tools we can help to help ourselves, what are emotions, how to process them, how to honor your own emotions. And all of this really taking a toll. So when you hear someone tells you that you need to try this and this and that, first of all, you need to ask yourself, why would I want to try this? Do I really believe it's going to help me? Am I doing this because I want to please them and then report to them back and say, oh my gosh, I totally tried this too and it works? Because that's probably what we'll be doing because of validation. Because you want to be validated by the person, then you see as a successful one. I think that's what's happening in today's society a lot. So then when you know why you're doing this, then you need to ask yourself an ultimate question. How can I heal my wounds? But first, you also need to understand what is that you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. Because you could be doing something, the insanity of continuously doing the same thing by hoping that the results are going to be different. And that is what I'm going to tell you about my calm process. And if you about to like thinking, oh my gosh, I need to start writing this down and all of this, don't worry. I will giving you a free access to my online membership with the whole module where I tell you about my, every step in details with the worksheets, with the questions you can ask yourself, with videos. But overall, I want to tell you, and I can talk about that forever, but probably better not to. So I'll tell you what is that process about. So let's say you are in a situation that, I don't know, even something you sit in traffic and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm late to work. Or even if you're going through a stressful situation that has to do with other people in your life, the situation, and like this kind of continues. That process is a 4-step formula. That is called process. So C stands for control. Can you control the situation? Can you cannot? A, appreciating the situation or accepting. L is finding things that, well, you keep on doing it, but they don't work. And then M is finding the things that you do that do work and finding new things and trying out those new tools that I was telling you about. Trying out something different, changing your everyday life, changing the way you respond, changing the way you take action. And then, yes, that situation will change as well. But everything starts with you. You need to take that decision to help yourself. And now you immediately say, well, I don't know, this looks like selfish to me. Listen, if you're not going to help yourself, nobody will help you. But also, if you are not full pitch, you cannot pour to other people's cups. Simple as this. So if you don't want to be selfish for yourself, be selfish for those that you love. And if you want a one-on-one session with me, go to my website, beamazingview.com. And I hope I see you in my membership because I'm giving the whole module for free. And where to find that is in the description below. See you there.